Welcome everybody to the Ring Generals podcast. My name is Nick Niad. Alongside me is Easy E Eric, the RKJ Man, and our special guest today on the podcast, the one and only Kathy Campanelli.
Hello everyone. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We've been trying to get you on the podcast for a long time, so we're super excited to have you. Yeah. It seems like you're really involved in the business right now. What is your level of excitement for just pro wrestling and the indie scene right now? Because it seems like you're very excited. You have almost something like every single day.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I think what it is the fact that I legitimately enjoy it, so it doesn't feel like, okay, gotta do this, gotta slave away, gotta, make money, whatever, gotta pay the bills with it. It's really something I genuinely enjoy being a part of. And I mean, when I call matches, like, that's legitimate excitement that people can hear in my voice. So, I mean, super excited. I mean, on a level of like 1 to 10, I'm like a 15. Like, I just really like it,
Now, Kathy, tell us about your start in pro wrestling, because I saw somewhere where you were an opera singer, or you did opera for a quick minute there, and then you moved into pro wrestling. So tell us how that transition happened.
It's a really weird transition, isn't it?
That's
so, I went to college to be a performer. I always, from a very young age of just doing musical theater and doing plays when I was growing up, I always felt like I had to do something performance-wise. So I went to college to be an opera singer because it was something that people were like, hey, you're good at that? Why don't you pursue it? And I have fantastic parents who I said, hey, shouldn't I get something more practical? Shouldn't I get like a business degree? They're like, nope, you're going to be an opera major. But I mean, I'm thrilled, obviously. So after moving out here to LA, started kind of just I had friends that were watching it back on the East Coast. But moving out here, I started kind of watching on a weekly basis and got a little bit more excited about it, to the point that Santino Brothers was doing a one-day tryout. And one of my very dear friends and I went to the one-day tryout, and it was a lot. It was a lot. So I'm really glad that I did it, because it was a huge eye-opener to everything that every wrestler puts themselves through, and it gave me, I think, a serious appreciation for it. But one of the best things that came out of the one-day tryout was the last portion of the class was a character development portion. Where it said, hey, who has a character? Who wants to cut a promo? So I had a character that I had been kind of thinking about. It's because I worked in human resources at the time. And it was Kathy from Human Resources.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Just this heel manager, just no fun, no high flying. I mean, I very much took a lot of pages from like Drew Gulak's book and a lot of what he was doing at the time. So I loved it. I loved the idea of I'm very by the book, and I got a lot more engaged in social media through that character. But I feel like that was where stuff finally fit for me. It wasn't a matter of being super physically gifted or I wanted to tell the story. I don't rule training out. I think it's still a really good way to have a better concept of what's going on in the ring, but I really think that the storytelling piece, the supporting piece of it is where it all kind of fell into place, and where I really started pursuing it was through Santino's actually ended up offering a manager class for basically like, hey, you want to be in wrestling? Hey, do you not want to wrestle? Here you go. So it was everything from ring announcing, commentating, the production side, everything that goes into, a live show. So much kind of just knowledge of the business in general, just so helpful. So I mean, that was huge in shaping just my journey in professional wrestling.
When you did that initial tryout, did you actually have to take bumps and stuff like that? Oh, wow. So that was obviously...
I can't do that.
I mean, we were wearing
15 minutes.
What was it?
I'll be done in 15 minutes. I couldn't do it. I'll be done in 15 minutes. I can't take that physical punishment every single night. I heard, though, once you train, though, and as many times as you train, your body gets used to it. But it's still physical punishment every single night. So that's tough that you even went there for one day. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was one of those things where people talk about building up a callus. So it's okay. I love it, and I respect it so much, and I admire the people that do that on a daily basis. I know for me, like, I entertain the idea of, like I said, like, just keeping up here and there. Like, I can bump. Like, I feel good. I feel confident about that. But I think just there's a lot of pressure. Like, literally someone's life is in your hands, and that's crazy. So, like,
now,
I think that was just a lot for me.
So, how did you get involved with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, from Santino Bros?
Yeah, so at Santino's, for the manager class that I was in, a group of us actually ended up going up to the venue to just help out with the ring. Help being part of ring crew, help running gear, selling, like being at the merch table, just to kind of help out and lend a hand. And I was standing kind of at the ring, and I was watching them do all of the pre-show promos.
Mm-hmm.
And I was approached, someone said, "Do you want to do that?" I was like, yeah. So luckily I had actually been at a show the night before where I had come straight from work. So I still had my work shirt in my car. They're like, okay, like I went and I grabbed my work shirt and I cut a promo as Kathy from HR, and then I did like a little mock interview. I think it was with Ty Matthews. And I just had like a little, back and forth with him, and the rest is kind of history. That was like my audition, and it was so spur of the moment, but they say always be prepared because you never know. You never know.
Always be prepared.
Yeah, the one thing that I saw in one of your interviews that I was actually surprised was the NWA champion Nick Aldis, and I gotta know, how was that experience? Talking to Nick Aldis.
It was really interesting because that was one of my first. I think it was one of my first like major.
Yeah, that's true.
Promos. So we're doing the interview, and I wasn't expecting he does this line because they were preparing for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood was doing the trip to China, and he was part of it. So he had been, studying, I believe it was his Mandarin, and he said, "Gigi, Kathy," and he said, "You can say it too." So I take the microphone back and I look at the camera, I go, "Gigi," and he's cutting it off, and he goes, "You're welcome," and he walks away.
Yeah, that's brutal from Nick. Damn.
That's crazy. But
Crazy.
No.
What has been your most favorite interview on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood? I heard you say something about Jazz. What did she say? Something about you will now refer to me as
the female fighting phenom.
Yeah, I can't say that.
She was just honestly, just what a presence to just kind of be standing next to her. Very intimidating, and I referred to it before, like, like when a parent or an authority figure gets really quiet, like, you're in trouble. Like, they can yell and scream or whatever, but when they get quiet, like, it's a new level of bad. That was how it felt because she was so quiet. Trust me. He said, "Listen here, little girl." I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Respect to Jazz, man.
Like,
it's badass.
Amazing. Like, commands respect. Incredible. So that was a really, really awesome one to be a part of.
Yeah, the aura of her, like, you can kind of feel why she's been so successful in the business too, in that way, because you kind of got to be like that if you want to be that high. I mean, Jazz has been, I forget how many times she's been women's champion, but it's, at the top of the top at some point. So have you ever had an interview where it was like maybe a little extra intense, or there was someone went off script and you didn't expect it? And how would you kind of deal with that if something went wrong in an interview? Because we see that like kind of in the big companies sometimes where people go whatever the word, they go off kayfabe or whatever like that, and you see how people react, and sometimes they don't react in the best way. How would you kind of approach a situation like that?
I think at the end of the day, it's kind of a matter of not feeding into it, because my role is to be kind of the straight and narrow. Whoever I'm interviewing is the personality. So if they go a little off and go a little zany, I have a stupidly expressive face. But I think trying to like control that would be a huge thing. I've had a lot of really fun interviews with Sway Thompson and Chris Bay, just because they
Double
are
platinum. I love them.
Oh my, they're hysterical. But they throw a lot of stuff where I'm like trying to control myself. Heather Monroe's another huge personality. I think it was no huge deal, but she has her little water bottle that she sprayed.
Oh yeah, she sprayed you a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
She sprayed you right in the face.
I was not expecting. So that was a very legit reaction to the. But luckily, I haven't had any, like, knock on wood, like any major train wrecks, so to speak. But just more so like fun and trying to control my reaction to things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, Kathy, I'm interested because you work in these independent promotions. I'm interested as if this is the highest independent wrestling has ever been, in your opinion. So we're seeing like AEW being created, and some people are saying they could go to Turner, and so a lot of people are saying that they're now the legitimate competitor to the WWE. Now they're claiming on the other side that we're just being an alternative, but internally I'm thinking that they want to compete with the WWE. Well, do you think right now it's the hottest time to be on the independent scene? And do you think the WWE is no longer the end-all be-all for these wrestlers?
I think that it's a really incredible time to be part of the pro wrestling world, and the independent scene is absolutely flourishing. I think that one of the beautiful things is that, like you said, WWE still can remain a huge, major goal for people, but there are so many options out there and new ones that I feel like are popping up all the time that there's more pieces of the pie for everybody. And that's something I love, because it should be something for everyone to be a part of. So I love the fact that there are, so many new promotions coming up, and realizing that you can have your dream goals and you can have your dream companies that you want to work for, but realizing that there are still so many options that you can, make a living. So I think that's a really beautiful part of it. I think it's huge right now. And I don't think that there would be as many, people even, 5-10 years in the past that would be doing it.
Yeah, I kind of saw that with like at the time back in the late 90s with backyard wrestling. A lot of these kids would, do like these pro wrestling shows in backyards, and they would just have their own setup in the back, and then they would just do their own shows. I thought it was actually pretty cool. And then seeing other alternatives, not just WWE and WCW at the time, you can actually, go to these wrestling shows, locally, you just can't just go like 10 minutes away from your house, or just go to check out a wrestling show, or even be a part of it, or even do interviews, or even become a referee or whatever. That's probably one of the beauty things about the independence, because you kind of have like this freedom in a way. I think I remember I did see one of your interviews. You said that there's the freedom, and there's also the somewhat you feel like you can experiment in a way. You get to experiment and actually explore more of the wrestling part of, not just telling stories in the ring, but also doing interviews. I think that's just the beauty of being part of the independent scene, if you ask me.
It's fantastic, yeah, because it's all advancing a story. And like you said, whether it happens in the ring or it happens ringside or it happens before the show starts, like whatever, it's all part of this bigger picture and a bigger story that's, supporting what's happening in the ring.
Now, Eric, I'm glad you actually brought that up, brought the theme of independent wrestling, because we do talk about one person a lot on this, on our podcast. Specifically, there's a lot of complaining going on about this person, Priscilla Kelly, and a lot of her antics. Do you know of what she's done in the past? What some of the antics she's done in the ring?
Oh, you're looking at me, Eric.
Oh, yes. Of course. I mean, the tampon gimmick, the puking, like you're gonna have people that you piss off with anything, and I think it's freaking hilarious. Like, yeah. I love it. I think the normalization of a menstrual cycle is fantastic. Like, it's a riot to me. And I think that that's wrestling, like whatever. Like, it's meant to be fun. It's entertainment. So I think that's fantastic. Like, I wholeheartedly.
I'm on more of the side of you too, because I'm like, you got to find your niche in some way too, especially if you're not in one of these giant companies. And Priscilla Kelly has been being covered by like CNN and Fox News and ESPN for some of these stuff. And I'm like, good. Every publicity is good publicity, or whatever the saying is.
Hold on. But is it a fad? Is it just something that we tap on for 30 seconds to a minute? We talk about it for a day or two, and then afterwards, we're on to the next subject.
So even if it is, I think you're gonna find people that watch this story on Fox News, on ESPN, that have never heard about independent wrestling and all they know is WWE and they hate it. They might go a little bit further and explore like, well, okay, like let me find out a little bit more about what was going on. They might watch a clip of that match and be like, wait, this is actually awesome. And I think that even if it is a fad, even if it never happens again, it served its purpose. Because it brought new people into a world that they might not have known about. Like for only watching WWE and then going to my first live show like in LA, night and day. And I think that if I had only watched WWE, I might not have aspired to get involved in the independent scene. And I think the independent scene is really what is helping me to grow the most, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have that freedom to kind of do a lot. And I remember I was listening to an interview you did where you said that bar wrestling a lot of times is kind of uncensored and you can kind of do whatever you want. So you have like the restrictions you have with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Obviously, it's on live television. And then you have bar wrestling where it's that I feel like develops not only like your character as a wrestling personality, but it develops, it teaches you skills that you can now carry on further in the wrestling business.
Absolutely. I mean, so much of it is even just improv, like being able to, you know, have to be on my toes for anything. I mean, a lot of things with, you know, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood are you know, set up ahead of time. And that's all, you know, that's great because there's a certain level of professionalism that comes with that. But I think that to just kind of be able to like go off the cuff and there's nothing like that feeling.
Now, one thing I do see in bar wrestling a lot is the intergender matches. I see a lot of, and she's my favorite wrestler right now in the independents, Tessa Blanchard, go up against guys like Brian Cage. So tell me what your feeling is about now men versus women in wrestling.
I love it. They're all wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
And like, period, end of story. Like, I think that's amazing. And I think that I think it's, like I said before, there's no kind of better time, I think, to be in the pro wrestling world right now. And I think that, I mean, you're going to hear people that argue either side. I mean, my personal opinion, I love it. I think that it brings out a lot of creativity for, you know, both opponents. You know, if I, you know, can't lift Brian Cage because I'm a normal human being, how am I going to tear him down? How am I going to like get a leg up in this match? What am I going to do? You know, how do I tell the story as Brian Cage, realizing that, like, you know, I'm Brian Cage, you know, like how do I tell this story again, you know, in the ring? I think that it makes people have to, you know, use, maybe if it doesn't make sense for you to muscle out of something, like, can you be wily? Can you be cunning? Can you, you know, find other ways around? So, I mean, I think it's genius. I love it.
Dream match of the day. So I tend to do this a lot with the guys. So, you know, if you have a dream match, Kat, feel free to say it. So for me, on this one, I see, you know, even though this person is not alive, he's actually one of my favorite wrestlers, Eddie Guerrero versus Andrade Cien Almas.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What a match that would be.
Yeah. Who would win, Cien Almas or Eddie Guerrero?
I gotta go. Eddie's gonna cheat to win for sure. No doubt.
Cheat, of course.
I'm actually gonna go with Andrade.
Andrade? Okay, fair enough. Okay, Nick, what do you got? I mean, do you have a dream match?
You know, I had one in my head like 10 minutes ago, and I can't remember what it was. So can one of you go, and I can just think about it for like 2 minutes?
You guys can have fun with it. You know, it can be in boxing.
I'll tell you this. I'm excited about AJ Styles and Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank. Like that crazy. I didn't think that happened so quickly, but I think your point about how AEW has a big pay-per-view coming up the week after, Ryan, I think they're like, hey, compete with this. AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins. You don't get much better. So that would be my dream match, and I get to see it in the month.
It's not my point. There's some rumors going around that that's the reason, but I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, huge match.
And Ryan, you go.
Kenny Omega versus Seth Rollins. You put the two top stars of the promotion against each other. Kenny Omega, who's already said how he would feel like it would be bad if he couldn't wrestle a guy like Seth Rollins, against a guy who may be the Shawn Michaels of this generation in Seth Rollins. And from what, you know, I'm starting to think, you know, because he's putting on match after match after match that's definitely high quality in Seth Rollins. So I think, personally, since he's a WWE guy, Seth Rollins will go over.
Nice.
And Kat, you got one?
I have absolutely nothing because literally there are so many people flying through my head and I cannot. I'm gonna, if we do another one, I'll be better prepared. But like,
yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
This. So
that's what happens to me almost every single show. He throws it on me, and I'm like, I don't have time to think. I want to think of something good,
Right, and I mean, so many people. I'm like, oh wait, but did they have a match with this person on the Indies like before that? Like, did this already happen? So I think there's.
I think I got one from the horror genre. Pinhead versus Jason Voorhees.
Wow.
Pinhead. Okay, there we go.
Pinhead.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll go with Pinhead too. Yeah.
I think Pinhead has some otherworldly elements that like.
Well, his buddies, the Cenobites, if you ask me, yeah.
They're crazy. Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
All right, so we're gonna transition. We're gonna do the last segment of our 3, and if you thought you were gonna get away with on this podcast not talking about cereal, that's not gonna happen. I know that you are such a huge cereal fan. You have your social media is filled with it. Your YouTube page is filled with it. So I just have 4 simple questions I want to ask you. It can kind of be rapid fire. It doesn't have to be. Just answer them how you would. So my first question is, so these are my 5 favorite cereals right here. So I just want you to rank them 1 through 5 in order if you can. So Captain Crunch, Apple Jacks, Frosted Flakes, Cocoa Puffs, and Honey Nut Cheerios. Those are my 5. So rank those. If you need me to say them again, I'll say them again.
No, I think I got them. Okay. Lowest, Frosted Flakes.
Okay.
Lowest. That's my 5.
All right.
Okay. From there, we're gonna go to Honey Nut Cheerios.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I'm gonna say. Oh, okay. What was the one? It's not Cocoa Puffs, not Captain Crunch. What was the other one?
Apple Jacks.
Okay, change it. Frosted Flakes, Apple Jacks.
yeah.
Honey Nut Cheerios, Cocoa Puffs, Captain Crunch.
Yeah.
Wait, with or without Crunch Berries? This changes things.
You know what? I hadn't thought of that. I've never had the Crunch Berries before, so just the normal. I know. I'm a horrible. That's why I'm asking the question. I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Still,
just
I stick by it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree with you.
Texture-wise, I think Captain Crunch is going to be your go-to. It's the most enjoyable texture cereal experience. Cocoa Puffs, though, you have the deliciousness of the chocolatey milk that you get at the end.
Yeah, 100%.
Honey Nut Cheerios, classic. You can't beat it. The flavor's there. Apple Jacks is kind of like whatever. Frosted Flakes, I think, is just like it's just boring. It gets soggy really quickly.
That's what I was gonna say. That's my problem with it too. I love the taste, and I like eating actually Frosted Flakes just without the milk sometimes.
Yeah, I prefer that over the milk. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. With the milk, often it gets very soggy very quickly. All right. So next question. I'm glad you didn't even need to extend on it either. You actually went in depth and described them too, which was good. Okay, so this is okay. So if you were stranded on an island and there was no milk anywhere in sight, no milk available, which would be the cereal if you had to pick one that you'd have to eat raw while you're on that island?
Okay. Is it multiple choice or do I just get to pick my own?
You just get to pick whichever. You only get to pick one, and it's the only one you get. You don't get any other cereal, but there'd be a care package that drops down, and no milk, though.
It's Golden Grams.
Okay.
It's always Golden Grams. Here's why. I will always give my dissertation on Golden Grams because I stand by it so much. I hate the powder that you get at the end of a box of cereal. I think it's garbage. I think it's wasteful.
Mm-hmm.
And Golden Grams stays together in their pieces, I think, for longer. So when you get to the end of the bag, there's not so much like, powdery nonsense. Yeah. So I feel like I would really be satisfied on a desert island by having the most cereal.
There you go. Okay, so change the subjects. What is your favorite cereal mascot?
Chip the Wolf from Cookie Crisp.
Oh wow!
Not the dogs.
I forgot about
the dogs.
Yeah, I forgot about. And then so basing a kind of a follow up. Which cereal mascot would you think would make the best professional wrestler?
Oh, that is such a good question. Wow. I literally just looked over because I have an entire shelf of cereals. I'm like, wow, who's on there that would be really good?
Yeah.
I mean, I have to give it to Tony the Tiger. I feel like he's the most athletic.
I felt like you were gonna say that. Yeah.
He's a pretty he's pretty buff. Yeah, I think, and he seems very agile as well.
I'm just glad he didn't completely bury Tony the Tiger in Frosted Flakes.
I can't.
I'm just glad he didn't completely bury him. Because Frosted Flakes is like another member of my family.
I got him.
That's what I eat at night when I'm doing homework. That's what I eat in the morning sometimes. That's my thing. So.
And it serves its purpose different ways for different people. So, and there's a lot of options now too. I have the banana cream Frosted Flakes. Dynamite, delicious.
I put bananas in my Frosted Flakes too before, and that is a pretty good substitute. That helps with the sogginess.
It does.
To be honest. Yeah, it does.
I got a match for you guys: Tony the Tiger versus Brock Lesnar.
Tony the Tiger.
Tony the Tiger.
He's a tiger beats a human. It's just one scratch and Lesnar's done. You know. Yeah. But no, so I never thought I'd talk about cereal that much on a podcast. So I'm more.
So glad we did though. Thank you.
No, exactly. I had to somehow bring cereal into this, and I thought, I have we call my segment the random segment, and I'll bring up Cardi B, I'll bring up the NFL draft, like it's whatever. But and then you said so. What was it? What was your favorite? Your number one?
Golden Grams.
Golden Grams. See, I've never had those before. Are those?
Oh yeah, they're really good.
Generally, like in stores. I have to try. I feel like I have to try them now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think they're pretty like regularly, locatable item. Yeah.
There you go. Makes sense. Okay, so that's it for our segment. So this will kind of be the not the end of the show, but kind of our last stuff we're going to talk about. I did want to. You are living in Los Angeles right now, so I did want to ask you how do you get around the LA traffic here? Because for me, I've had some of the most frustrating days being in a car for about 3.5 hours headed from Orange County, where we're based, up to Los Angeles. So how do you manage? How have you figured out how to avoid LA traffic yet?
Yeah, we're having a Skype call.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Smart.
Thank you, technology. No, honestly, I think a lot of it's timing.
Yeah.
Making sure you're hitting stuff at the right time. Some of it's just a good playlist and patience. A lot of patience. but yeah, for the most part, I think it's just more of a timing thing than anything. And like kind of being able to plan your day to be like, okay, well, the traffic's gonna suck right now. But honestly, I'm from Philly. We have like a pretty major freeway there that was like a constant bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
I was kind of used to it.
Yeah.
I would say just the patience thing too. It's always important.
My patience runs thin a lot, and it's because what I'll do sometimes is I'll get off the freeway and try to get on side streets, and what you don't realize is 500 other people decide to do that, so you're stuck in worse traffic. It's horrible.
I'll copy.
For sure.
I'll copy the person, yeah. And it's just frustrating that when they cut you off, and it's just so frustrating when you're like on the 4th or 5th lane, like far ahead, and you just like are trying to get to like the exit. It's just good luck with that.
I just try to avoid driving as much as possible, honestly. I really do. These guys know me. Like, I'll take an Uber before I'll drive.
King over here.
I will take an Uber or Lyft before I drive in a dangerous situation, honestly, because I'm not trying to get in no car wreck. That's no. On the freeway, I've heard stories of people's cars breaking down in the middle of the freeway. So, I mean, I can't watch that.
That's why you got to change your oil, man. That's why you got to, go to the mechanic and fix all that.
I mean, last year, I had a situation, though, where I was at work and a car caught on fire and burnt the back of my car.
Insane.
So last year, I'm at work and I hear over the headset, I'm like, the guy was like, yeah, there's a car on fire. And I'm like, what?
So it's pretty blasé as well.
Yeah.
And I'm smelling the smoke. So I walk out of the store and my eyes are turning. I'm like, God, please don't let this be my car. And there's my car. It's not on fire. It's not the one that's on fire, but the car behind it, kind of sort of over here, diagonally from it or whatever, that thing is on fire. And literally, I told the story last year of the Regionals podcast. I ran there, which is probably not a smart idea looking back at it, but I just ran straight to the car. And then the guy was like, hey, back. And I was just like, and all my coworkers was like, Ryan, it's a car. It's like your life is more important than a car. But I'm just like thinking first thing, there's a damn fire right here, and it's destroyed my car. So it destroyed it destroyed the back of my car, and it was a complete disaster with the insurance situation. And I hate that insurance company now.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I try to avoid driving, but stuff can still happen regardless of you not driving. I wasn't even in my car. My car was off.
It'll get you either way.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Yeah.
He has the worst luck with like accidents. It's the fact
Don't
that
say that, Nick. I might get into an accident tomorrow. You gonna say that right now? Then I'm gonna call you and be like, Nick, thanks, bro. I got into a major car wreck and I'm almost dead.
I really hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, it just goes to my point that you have bad luck. So
don't make me put up my middle finger.
Yeah.
All right.
Sticking to the LA news, do you intend on kind of staying in LA as your home, or if there was opportunities that came about for other wrestling companies, would you be willing to obviously leave LA or maybe keep it as a second home?
I think I'm really open to wherever, it's weird. I don't feel like LA proper feels like home to me kind of thing. So I'm all about kind of exploring different places and see what feels like the right place. But yeah, I'm just kind of open to wherever the wind may blow, and if I, have an opportunity to check something else out, and maybe that's, I feel like you kind of have to do a little bit of exploring to find it. So if it's wrestling opportunities that take me to new places, like, cool, let's do it.
And you said you're going down to San Diego for the first time in a couple.
With wrestling, yeah. Like I've been there to visit, but I think this will be like one of the furthest kind of trips that I've taken outside of like my little LA bubble for wrestling. So that'll be really fun.
No, that San Diego is always great, and the weather is down there.
I've actually wanted to know, because I know you're a big Rocco's Modern Life fan, Kat. I want to know if there's like another show that you're actually a fan of at the time from Nicktoons. Rugrats, Real Monsters.
Oh, good question.
Hey Arnold, Doug.
Okay.
What is it?
Okay, so aside from Rocco's Modern Life, probably Rugrats would be like my next. Real Monsters is also awesome, but I feel like I sometimes would find myself just kind of like being in and out of like focusing on it. But I love the art style of it, and I love the fact that they're monsters. I'm a big horror fan, so I love that. But yeah, definitely Rugrats. I think it reminds me of just being a kid, like literally, and because it was in the 90s.
Yeah, I was kind of like wondering, like, what was your take when they were like grown up, like when they actually?
I hated it.
Yeah, I
hated it. Dill ruined that show.
Yes.
When they brought Dill on the show, like forget it. It was done. It was the end of an era. I don't want to talk about it. No, but no, I do feel like that was the downfall of me. Maybe it was just a correlation of just like the age I was getting to, where I like wasn't interested anymore. But like I hate them grown up. I'm not interested in that. And I hated when Dill came in. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of, if you ask me, like Nickelodeon at the time were kind of like they were kind of like pushing Cartoon Network to try like compete with them in order for like these awesome shows to even come out. It kind of felt like a Monday Night War kind of thing, for during, like after school. Yeah, and man, oh man, I just saw like the effort that they were put for Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. But yeah, I definitely agree with you with Rugrats being grown up. It just wasn't the same. I just turned the channel off. I'm sorry. Yeah, and just some of these new episodes they were just bringing in was just so it felt weird. Just, the passion was not there anymore. If you ask me.
I don't want to see them going to a concert. Like, no, I want to play with toys and like, burying bugs. Like, shut up. I don't want that.
I know it was just so weird. Favorite Cartoon Network, show at the time.
I honestly was not watching a lot of Cartoon Network at the time. Like one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows was probably like Billy and Mandy and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. But like I know that's a little bit later. I was definitely more Nickelodeon focused than Cartoon Network at the time.
No, yeah, definitely. I was actually going to ask you about this. Tell me more about the Silver Lake flea market.
Oh, hell yeah! So my husband and our very best friend, they're both artists. So They do a lot of different like art markets, flea markets. And they have some really cool stuff. They're both on my page. So it's Jay Gruesome and Created by Pocket. So you can check them out on my Instagram. They're actually going to be doing on, I believe it's May 8th, is the Midnight Bazaar in Santa Monica. So that'll be really awesome. A lot of really cool art. And usually there's like live painting and drinks and revelry. And it's a lot of fun. So
checked out the one of the paintings that he did. It was the Mario theme, which was one of my favorites. And the Donnie Darko one, the Donnie Darko was the one that really caught my attention because I love that movie and horror based, if anything. Are we gonna see a Hellraiser painting soon?
I mean, I can definitely put a word in with with the artist. Let's see.
With the Cenobites.
And honestly, you'll see there's a lot of really cool stuff now with a lot of color, a lot of splatter effects. There's some nods to some, old Nicktoons and Pokemon and stuff like that. So there's a mixture of pop culture and a lot of original characters as well with Jay Gruesome. So a lot of really cool stuff coming out of there. So
I can't wait.